So, we are literally 2 episodes away from this season of My Hero Academia ending. So, I want to dive into this breakdown and review, so let's get started. Hey guys, how's it going? It is your boy, Manga Andrew, and I'm here to do my breakdown and review for My Hero Academia Season 8, the final season, Episode 9. I want to do this breakdown and review. And there's a fair amount that we really need to go over in this breakdown. And before we get into it, I'd like to ask you, if you haven't done so, to subscribe to my YouTube channel and leave a like and hit that notification bell to be notified for when I upload more content like this. Also, I just started my Patreon for the sole purpose of being able to show y'all my reaction to the first of my 3-episode reaction to the final episodes of My Hero Academia. You can find it on Patreon at Manga Drew, as well as a link down in the description, as well as seeing a abbreviated and edited version of it on YouTube, but the full extent of it being on my Patreon for free. And without the way, let's dive into the episode breakdown. And to start off, the episode is titled Epilogue / The Hellish Todoroki Family Final. And the episode title actually takes its name from 2 manga chapters. Manga chapter 424 for Epilogue and manga chapter 426 for the Hellish Todoroki Family Final. As well as this episode does cover new material from chapters 424, 425, as well as 426. However, this episode does not adapt the entirety of all 3 of these chapters. The one that it doesn't really adapt the most from is 425, which is going to be the last 3 pages, pages 13 to 15 of 425. And while some of those pages are adapted, not all of them. And the same can be said for manga chapter 426 as well. But even with that, most likely than not, these adaptations are going to be happening within the next episode, so stay tuned. But going on from that, the episode starts off very much like in the manga, with the beautiful Meryl giving the weather forecast, explaining how it will be very sunny with high winds, as we have the anime slightly expanding upon this scene by showing Japan being rebuilt before it actually happens proper, very much like how it was in the manga. And this is going to be a running theme for this episode, where there's going to be very minor changes between the anime and the manga for many scenes in this episode. However, the small changes that we get just really add to why this is an adaptation and really improves on the material, if not slightly. But we cannot talk about the changes in the anime without talking about changes in the opening, because for once, there is a very small change in the opening. And that is, towards the end of the opening, we see 2 individuals holding hands, and it's later revealed, literally moments later, that these are the kids that we saw not just in the final war, or the kids that Froppy and Uraraka saved, and you can tell it's the same kids because the girl is holding the Endeavor bag. So it's cool that the anime added this, mainly due to the fact that My Hero Academia has a motif when it comes to holding hands. So it's cool that the anime added this to the opening, mainly due to the fact that My Hero Academia has a motif, especially when it comes to holding hands. But going from the opening, the anime starts off with an expanded sequence of the construction of Japan thanks to the heroes all over the world. And that the anime shows heroes not seen in the manga moving debris, helping create roads, and just general construction, just like we see in the manga, but once again expanded upon. And also, very much like in the manga, what we get in the anime is the appearance of Uraraka's father, being helped out by a hero that can picture the buildings in 3D, as well as we do get a small little addition to the individual reporter talking to Big Red Dot, being the camera woman that we actually saw, who was recording the fight between Uraraka and Toga. And finally, the biggest thing between the anime and the manga that I'm glad that both added is the cameo from the Sky Crawler, aka Koichi, who is the main character from the spin-off My Hero Academia series called My Hero Academia Vigilantes. You can check out my reactions to the manga over here. But yeah, This was a very fun surprise in both the anime and the manga, mainly due to the fact that I forgot that he was going to appear in the anime, so it was a big surprise for me. But yeah, I'm glad that they were able to finally have him properly be introduced into the My Hero Academia manga proper, even if it's out of order in the anime and compared to what it was in the manga. But speaking of things that are changed between the anime and the anime does add a scene of Central Hospital to help transition from the heroes working on construction to cut over to the reveal that Bakugo may lose the use of his arms and may not be able to be a hero anymore. And how this entire sequence of the conversation between the doctor who looks like Yoshi and Bakugo very much plays out the same between the anime and the manga, as Bakugo in both declares his resolve to continue to be a hero and that he will go through physical therapy to do it. But a small change between the manga and the anime in this scene is how Mirko is used as an example for Bakugo and how he can continue to be a hero if he amputates his arm. And how the anime actually cuts Mirko being in bed and saying for the doctor to cut off her limbs, which is replaced by an image of Mirko just using prosthetic limbs in the anime. And the change was most likely used because that was a very out-of-pocket line from Mirko, and they probably didn't want to show that extreme on TV. But what isn't extreme is what happens next. Because as we're talking about arms, this is a great transition into what happens next with Deku and All Might having a conversation, which is very much the same between the anime and the manga, as they discuss that while Tomura's life was gone and Deku was unable to save Tomura's life, he was able to save Tomura's heart, and that Deku did fulfill the dream and purpose of One for All. And that only a very small but nice addition was made to the scene, as we do see Deku waking up in the anime while it's implied that he's already awake in the manga. And how with this addition, there's actually a cut panel showing all the previous users of One for All, which would have been the last time we would have seen them in the series in the manga, while in the anime, that last sequence is most likely multiple episodes prior. Speaking of the users of One for All, it's at this moment that Deku mentions that he still has the Embers remaining, very much like in the manga, as well as Bakugo appearing as well as interrupting their conversation. And while this scene and conversation once again plays out like in the manga, of Deku explaining that even though he's quirkless, he's fine with it, and that he may no longer have One for All, but that this is something that he has accepted. But the anime does make this reveal to Bakugo about Deku's state of One for All have a greater impact in the anime than in the manga. Because in the anime, we are shown more interactions between Deku and Bakugo in the anime than what is portrayed in the manga, as well as we see that the anime begins to show Bakugo from his point of view as his vision begins to become blurry, implying that he's about to cry. And that how this is how the anime builds up to Bakugo's crying, which has a greater impact. Because while in the manga, it just shows the moment of Bakugo crying, the anime elevates this scene by also showing that Bakugo's vision begins to be blurry, as well as showing his face shaking, preemptively showing that he's about to cry before the tears actually flow, even to the point of showing him shedding a few tears before he just straight up starts crying. And that watching this with these additions really made this impact hit harder in the anime than in the manga. And how this moment of vulnerability of Bakugo with Deku and All Might leads to the moment of All Might confirming to both Deku as well as Bakugo that they are both the greatest heroes, very much like in the manga, as the anime adds a very great shot of all three of them holding up their hands and all three of them smiling, which is not in the manga, as the manga only depicts Bakugo and Deku smiling. And this addition to the anime really just shows how connected that they are, and really just shows the friendship and mentorship that they all share. And it's from this moment we get the narration from Deku about how peace has yet to come, as we get a moment that was actually cut from the anime that is in the manga, which is a cut panel of scales between Shoto and Uraraka, which implied to be the scales from Spinner, showing that the anime is continuing the tradition of cutting major and crucial scenes involving Spinner out of the anime. Don't worry, it's not going to be the last time. It's not even going to be the last time in this breakdown. But after that, we do get a quick look at Deku and his new look as we see the former third years are all beginning to graduate, where we get another well done adaptation between the anime and the manga of the celebration of the students graduating, the characters like Nejire as well as Sun Eater getting their diplomas, as well as Mirio's speech being the same as it was in the manga, as his speech echoes the ideals of how the hero's goal is to return to zero, but now they have to make it so that the world is filled with laughter and becomes more positive. And how the only real addition to this scene is how the anime expands more on DJ Present Mike DJing this graduation, as well as how it adds more reactions of other students to what's going on with Mirio's speech that are not in the manga, which includes showing more reaction shots of members of Class 1B, including Monoma as well as Tetsu. Speaking on the classes, very much like in the manga, this is where we get the confirmation that Class 1A is now Class 2A, still having Aizawa as a teacher, which, funnily enough, not something that typically happens unless you are in a shonen manga or general anime scene. But along with that reveal, we also get the reveal that Aoyama is planning on leaving UA, Shinzo is joining Class A, as well as we have Fuwa telling the students what they're going to be doing, as well as showing the connection that she has with Aizawa. And that the only change to this moment is just how the anime typically reflects how the characters are portrayed in the anime. Basically, in the manga, we see Deku reacting to Fuwa's declaration of how Aizawa and his actions allowed them to become the heroes that they are now. In the manga, we see it from his normal side, but in the anime, we actually see it from the side that is heavily injured and shaved, so that we can get a very good look at Deku's new haircut. And it's from here where we approach the final major portion of the episode. But before that, we do get the scene in the manga of the students talking, Uraraka commenting or maybe saying that Deku has a bad haircut, as well as how we get the focus put on Shoto visiting Toya in this moment. And how this is where we get something very interesting that the anime does by not adapting certain panels and pages from the manga. Because the anime does cut from this episode scenes of a mysterious individual which is assuming to be a villain that is being compared to Tomura and potentially All for One, as these are the moments where chaos would reign supreme and history is typically forgotten. And while this is something that we do not see in this episode and is cut, this will most likely be reintroduced in the next episode and hopefully not cut out completely. But now we're approaching the end, where we get the conclusion of the Todoroki family plotline, where the anime starts it off with an overhead shot of where Toya is held instead of a panel of Endeavor being in front of Toya as it was in the manga. And from here, the conversation between Toya and Endeavor is not so much different between the anime and the manga, because Endeavor declares to Toya that he will continue to see him and visit him and talk to him, as well as that he is no longer going to be a hero because he can barely stand up. That he is going to continue to watch Toya until the very end. And the anime does change a very few minor things with this entire sequence. For instance, we do not get the constant beating of Toya's heart monitor as it is in the manga. However, this seems to have been replaced with Toya constantly heavily breathing due to the fact that the injuries that he has sustained would very much have harmed him not just externally, but internally, including his lungs, as he's shown to be barely able to breathe. Also, another small change is how the anime shows Toya depicted as having a greater reaction to the entire family speaking to him, as the anime shows him beginning to cry earlier than it was portrayed in the manga. As well as while he has the same answer to Shoto in both the anime and the manga of what his favorite food is, which is soba. Also, something else that I forgot to say about this scene, which is something that I noticed while editing, is that we actually get the anime adding more perspective shots of Toya looking out at the family, which is not in the manga. So it really just adds to this moment as well, showing that this is a true conversation happening between everyone in the Todoroki family and allowing for Toya to be more a part of it. This entire sequence is slightly improved upon from the manga to the anime due to the small changes that they made. But from here, we are approaching the end of the episode, which ends very much like in the manga, with the family parting ways, Natsu once again declaring his inability to truly forgive Endeavor, but also giving Endeavor his props on trying to change and become a better person. As this entire sequence ends as the ending of the anime begins. As the credits begin to roll, we get the moments from the manga of Shoto saying that he still has his friends, and Endeavor, even after everything, still has the support of characters such as Hawks, Burn, and Kido, and Onima, who are still somehow alive, as well as his chauffeur. As the episode ends, not like the manga, because in the manga, we get the reveal of the fates of Lady Nagant, Gentle Criminal, as well as La Brava. However, this sequence is most likely and definitely is going to be moved into the next episode thanks to the previews. But what is also different between the anime and the manga is that once again, Spinner is cut from the anime in this episode, but is most likely going to be reintroduced in the next one. As well as what is also different is how it's revealed that Hawks is the new president of the Hero Public Safety Commission. Because in the manga, it's revealed via a text that he's having, assumedly, with Endeavor. However, in the anime, it's actually revealed with him having a conversation with Mara. You know, the individual who's always tired who helped proctor the provisional license exam. And while this is a small change, I really like how it was changed, because how it was changed is going to lead in, most likely, to the reintroduction of Lady Nagant in the next episode. Also, something else I forgot to bring up is that the title card for this episode actually comes towards the end as the final punctuation of this episode. So that's something that I didn't bring up earlier, but I'm bringing up right now. But yeah, that's pretty much everything that I really have to say for this episode and breakdown and review. I really did enjoy the episode, even if it wasn't as emotional or as bombastic as the previous episode. It's still a very solid, very good episode of My Hero Academia. But hey, that's just my thoughts and opinions. And let me ask you this, how did you feel about the episode? Did you like it? Did you dislike it? And are you anticipating for the final 2 episodes of My Hero Academia? Leave your thoughts down below, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more content like this. Do all that cool jazz. Hopefully, I'll be able to catch you in my next video. Goodbye!